Good morning and welcome to our Q&A session again from the Flash Centre in London. I hope you're all doing well. There's a couple of bits of news as per normal that we'll go through before we start our Q&A session. So the news of the week is, I'll come on to these Rotalux Grids in a little while, but we've got some special offers on at the moment. Pentax 645Z system, camera of choice for me, absolutely love it. Pentax have extended some promotions and all of the bodies and kits till the 11th of January, £1,000 instant discount online for those, and also the Pentax 645 lens range as well. There is a 10% instant discount on each of those lenses, and we've also added a bit extra to each of those as well. So not only the bodies and the kits, but the lenses as well. So they should be very, very keen prices. So if you're looking to get into the medium format market, have a look. We obviously do our Skyport system as well, which all works very, very nicely, and we can high sync now with the 645Z. Makes it very usable in the studio and out on location. So have a look at those online. That's a really, really good offer on those. So Elinchrom have eventually released their Rotalux Grid system, something that's been missing for quite a while from the system itself. I love shooting with grids. Gives you that a little bit more control, keep everything tight within your image. So there is now a Rotalux Grid for every single softbox that we produce. All different shapes and sizes. They all come nicely packaged, and they're all very, very reasonable prices as well. We used to do a few grids and then stopped, and we started to do the light tools grids, which were inherently quite expensive. These all come in a lovely little pouch to keep them all safe, and roughly, I mean, don't hold me to this, but they're all around about the £100 mark. So they're a nice add-on to your system. So we're just going to unbox one now. I like the way they've added on what goes in which bag as well, which obviously makes it easier when you're packing stuff up. They're all 30-degree grids. Just open this before I start talking. Move this out. Obviously they're all labelled as well on the front of the grid, so we know exactly which one it is when we're picking a few out of a bag. They're really nicely made, and they go, this is a 70 by 70 square Rotalux, 30-degree grids, and they hook over the front of your existing front diffuser. I think the plan is later on down the line, Elinchrom will start putting Velcro on the outsides of the black edge to the front diffuser, so that these will actually stick on quite nicely. But I've tried one over the front of an existing box without that Velcro on, and it works really nicely. It's great. The idea of a grid obviously is to keep the width of the light, so you've got a softbox pointing at your subject. If it's feathered off, we can control the spill on the edges, so everything comes out in a very, very straight line. Automatically flags the edge of the light so that you don't get spill into areas, especially when you're trying not to light a background. This gives you a lot more control than you'll get. Some of the Rotalux softboxes, even the strips, have quite a wide spill, and you know, they're very usable. You can control a light with feathering techniques and things. This just gives you that extra dimension and allows you that full control over the light that's on your subject, so that you can just not contaminate anywhere else in the image. Most of you have heard me in my courses say it's very easy to illuminate an image, but actually to illuminate a subject within the image is the key, and that's all about control of light. The Rotalux Grid system will give you that complete control. So have a look online. They are in fairly short demand. Obviously there's been a lot of people waiting quite a long time for these to come out, so now they're in. We've got a delivery coming through next week, but what I suggest you do is get your name down. Actually put a pre-order in if you're desperate for them, because it allows us to pre-order stuff to come into stock, but also if your name's on the list, you're in the queue, and you'll be the first to receive those as soon as they come into the country. Every shape and size is catered for, so if you've got strips, if you've got octagonals, they're all available. So they're going to be massively popular. So you've been warned, just to let you know. So Rotalux Grids covered, Pentax special offers covered, all on the website. We get some good questions coming in every month now. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Also click the little bell, because that notifies you every time we're going to go live as well. Keep the suggestions coming in. We're really, really grateful, and thanks for being part of this. We're running this as a bit of a see how we go, and with the feedback we're getting and the questions we're getting asked, it's really helpful because we get to share the knowledge. And don't forget to add comments as we're live today, and we'll continue to answer the questions as best we can. I've got a couple of people that are actually coming to see me this afternoon after the last Q&A session we did. Because they're local, I can actually show them in the studio, because I'm spending time in London for the next couple of days. We can actually go through and show them some different techniques as well, which is all part of the service. So, use it. We're here to help. So give us a shout. So hit the subscribe button for next month, get your questions in, and we will continue to offer this service for as long as you all need it. So the first question we've got today is, what is the best value for money flash? The best value for money flash is the flash that will do precisely the job you want it to. Not only that, it's a scalable thing as well. So if you're getting into the studio flash and you're looking for a good value, let's take our example. I'm going to talk about Elinchrom now, because we are Elinchrom. So you buy the D-Light 1, it starts off, it gives you a lot of control because it's not a massively powerful light. It's very handy to use in the studio. We know it's great value for money for newborn photographers. It does everything the newborn photographer wants it to do because it goes down so low in power. We can get the flash in very, very close. We make the light source very soft, very natural looking, which is what we need. We need that dreamy quality of light for the newborn photographer, because that's what makes the images stand out. So take some educated advice. Look on the forums, see what people are using. It's all about getting the kit that works best for you. So if you've got an Elinchrom system, we know for a fact they're a fully digital system. There's no analog control behind. It gives you a digital control of the system itself. This comes into play when we're looking at color consistency, exposure consistency, everything about it. As long as you wait for the beep to go off once the head is recycled, every single shot will look the same as the last. That's going to save you a lot of time in post-production. This all adds to the value of the head. So yeah, you might spend 30 quid more than another market contender, but it saves you that time in post-production thereafter. Therefore, it's a good value for money piece of kit. Make sure it's scalable. Make sure that the unit in that range has the same mount as every other unit in the range. The Elinchrom system has never changed its mount. The configuration fits everything. So you could buy a brand new D-Light 1 head today. You could then go onto eBay and buy a 55-year-old softbox. It's still going to fit. And that, to me, shows value for money. We're not asking you to invest in a different system for each head or upgrade that you do going through. Make the most of the kit that you buy, and I was always taught, buy well, buy once. 3-year standard warranty on the Elinchrom stuff, don't forget. So a bit of peace of mind for you all when you're actually shooting and using it for real to earn a living. So the next question is, one of my lights has failed. How can I best get the job done? Well, if you're a working photographer, I would always go out with a spare unit just in case. Anybody can trip over a light stand, anybody can knock it over, it can break. If you haven't got a spare piece of kit to allow you to continue your job, it's not going to look great in front of the client. Wedding photographers always have a second body, or should have a second body in their bag. What happens if the camera gets dropped, the camera fails? They're all electronic these days, so there's a lot that can go wrong. So always have that spare bit of kit. Even if it's not to the standard of your original head that you use all the time, ensure you have a cheaper alternative in your bag just to allow you to continue your shoot and get the job done for the client. It's going to keep them happy. Excuse me, I have a bit of man flu today, so you'll have to bear with me. the other question is, I think I've covered it already. Why would I use a grid on my softbox? We talked about it a little bit earlier when we were looking at the Rotalux Grids. It is all about control. Those of you that know me and have been on my lighting courses, to me, lighting is all about control. We're painting the light onto the subject exactly where we want it and nowhere else. It's all about giving the effect and using your own light source. Again, you've heard me say it before, as your own portable sun, if you like, if you're outside. Put the light in exactly the right place, and a grid is something that's going to give you that very, very tight, controlled look, and we can, not cross-contaminate different light sources in the image to create that three-dimensionality, that depth to the image. It's all about the light, and the more control you have, the better the lighting effect is going to be in your images. The question we quite often get asked, and I think at some point, maybe in the spring, we'll try and do something on a location, because I always get asked about mixing daylight with flash. There's a couple of ways of looking at this. When I go out onto a location shoot, the first thing I'm doing is looking at the light quality that is around me. If I have very harsh sunny conditions, unbroken sunshine, the light in general is going to be very hard. The sun is a huge light source, but it's 93 million miles away. It becomes a very small point source of light. Gives you very dense shadows and everything else. So if I start adding very soft, diffused light into my image, it's going to look fairly unnatural. So the first thing I do, rather than worrying about my exposure, is I'm looking and choosing my light source to match light for light. That's really important to me, to keep it looking as natural as possible. If I have a very grey, overcast day where the cloud is diffusing the daylight coming through, it gives us a very soft, gentle light. If I'm going to be matching my light for light, I'm then going to use a very large softbox, or a softbox that's large in relation to the size of my subject, i.e. getting the power down low enough, getting the box in close to give me that softer light source. So the closer the light, the bigger the light source in relation to the subject, the more softer, the more natural the light is going to look. Once we have decided on the modifier that we're going to use, we now need to start doing the technical bit, the maths, if you like. I tend to use my light meter outside, but there are other ways and means we can do it. So, let's cover those bit by bit, and we'll try and do something a little bit more in depth maybe in the spring when we can get outside and it's not too cold and we've got some nice sunny conditions to work in. So my light meter has several different effects. I use the Sekonic 858 meter because it's got the Elinchrom Skyport module built into it. I can fire my units, control my units from my light meter. It also gives me a spot meter as well when I'm out doing specific jobs. It's my meter of choice. I love using it. It gives me exactly what I need it to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set my light meter to a ambient setting, which is normally depicted by a picture of the sun. So I click on the sun, I set my shutter speed. So first off, I need to look at my shutter speed. So we'll start off, for argument's sake, of 1/25th of a second, which is my standard flash synchronization speed. I then decide on my ISO. I tend to shoot everything at 100 ISO. I know some people shoot at 200, 400. It's entirely up to you. It's the same difference. So for the purpose of this exercise, we've set my light meter to 100 ISO, shutter speed of 1/25th of a second, and I've set my daylight or my ambient reading on my light meter. I then meter by my subject by pressing the button on the side, and it gives me a value. It gives me an aperture. All I then need to do is translate that into the lighting setup that I've got. So as my main light is the most important one for me at that moment in time, I need to ensure that once my light meter has been put back to a flash setting, I've got 100 ISO at 125th of a second, I need to make sure when I press my button and it fires the flash, it gives me the same aperture as my ambient reading did. Once I get my light right and the power output of the light by controlling the output of it on the back of the unit or from the Skyport, I then make sure that if I've got an aperture of, let's say, for argument's sake, f8 from the ambient light, I need to match my flash exposure to f8. Very, very simple. That then gives you the right light source look. So we've got a hard specular light or a very soft diffuse light. I've got my exposure completely bang on to what my ambient was telling me. Everything will then be balanced. Camera, body, lens combinations, whether it be a DSLR, a mirrorless, it depends on how many elements are in the front of the lens, how long the lens is, how wide the lens is. You'll get a variation with exposure. Not so much in the olden days with film, because the latitude of the film was a lot tighter. Sensors work in different ways these days, so there can be a stop, maybe a little bit more difference in your light meter reading to the exposure. Don't get too hung up on looking at the back of your camera. The camera, and I bang on about this all of the time, we've all heard the chimp phrase when we're taking pictures and looking at the back of your camera. It's a visual representation and gives you an idea of what you've got. I use it for expressions and expressions only. It's a really, really low-res JPEG image. It's not going to tell you anything really about the exposure, it's going to give you an idea that the subject was smiling and they haven't closed their eyes. If you've done a light meter reading, everything you know is going to be bang on. So don't assess the picture in terms of exposure, color, anything else until you get home and actually put them onto your computer, have a look on your proper monitor. That's then a calibrated, you're looking at the raw file, you're looking at a higher res JPEG. It's got a lot more information in it, which is going to be more representative of the image itself. So use that as a guide, and a guide only for expression, and you will have a lot better result in terms of accuracy with that image that's on your screen. So buying a light meter is another question that we've got here. I'm thinking of buying a light meter. Can you share the benefits of having a light meter on a shoot? So this is almost sort of a lead on from the last question. When you're buying a light meter, you just need it to give you an aperture. It looks more professional in front of the client because you're taking a meter reading. You're not chimping at the back of your camera that we've just covered. You know the exposure is going to be bang on. And as I said, the camera body manufacturers and combinations will vary slightly, but don't worry about that. Your light meter reading is going to give you a base point to actually start shooting with, and you know everything's going to be perfectly exposed. So the light meter you get needs to give you a value. They're all very accurate. They're all within, tolerance of what is acceptable. I would rather take 1 or 2 light meter readings to get my correct base exposure than sit there and chimp at the back of my camera. It looks like I know what I'm doing in front of the client. It gives a much more professional look to what you're actually trying to do and achieve in front of that client. There are meters out on the market that some are app driven from smartphones, some are very cheap and cheerful meters, but from my experience, they're all good, they're all fairly accurate. I tend to standardise, and always have done, on the Sekonic range of meters. They're just my go-to brand. I trust them, I've used them for many, many years, and I will continue to do so. Obviously, the more money you spend on a light meter, the more facilities, the more features you get. But generally in a studio, all you want is one single number to appear on the screen, which is the aperture you're going to shoot at. Once you've translated that to your camera, you can shoot, and you can just continue to shoot. Everything is going to be perfectly exposed. So when you look at a light meter, don't automatically think you've got to spend £1,000 on one. There are offerings out there, sort of £150, £200 that do a perfect job. They don't have spot meter capabilities, but most people don't need spot metering facilities anyway. It's an average exposure of your surroundings, just to keep everything really, really simple and accurate. If you've got any questions regarding light meter choice, give us a shout. Send us a message. We'll be happy to help you out for each individual requirement. We stock a few different ranges of light meters in here. I tend to go for the Seconic because I know it. It's the same as your camera. You get into a brand and you tend to stick with it. And light meters for me is I just understand exactly what's going on with the Seconics. And also with the Elinchrom module, it gives me everything I need. I don't need a trigger in my hand to fire the lights. I do it all from the meter. Sorry guys, I don't know what happened there. We had a bit of a technical failure, so my apologies. Hopefully we got to the end of the light meter session, but if there's anything that I didn't answer or you'd like a bit more information on, please give us a shout by message or pop in and see us. Give us a ring, and we'll help you out. So there's a couple of questions left before we wrap up for this week. As I said, keep sending these questions in. Hopefully we're giving something back and giving you some free advice, and we get more and more every month. So it's nice to know that you guys are involved. As I said, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Click the bell so that you get notified of every time we do go live every month. We're a little bit later on in the day today due to my commitments yesterday, but we'll try and keep it around about the same time. So let's go for the last two questions for this month. I'm new to lighting. What's the first thing I should know? The first thing you should know is understanding the job that you do, the shoots that you're going to do. If you generally, when you're shooting and you decide to add lighting in, you know the genres of photography you're going to shoot anyway. Take some time to research the equipment. So it's very important to make sure the light itself goes down low enough in power so you can get it in nice and close if that's what you want to shoot, at big wide apertures, giving you very shallow depth of field, that soft dreamy look with the newborn photographers, for instance, that we spoke about earlier today. Have a look at the different lighting setups that other people use in that genre, and give yourself an idea of the equipment that's used out in the field for doing those images. Softbox modifier choice to me is always an important one. I need a softbox that's going to do 2-3 jobs for me. I don't want just one look from one modifier. So maximise the effect you can get with each modifier. The addition of a rotor grid onto the front will change the look and feel of the softbox and give you another look to add to your armoury. It's just a case of making sure that your investment works hard enough for you and gives you the results that you're gonna benefit from moving forward. Generally, we get to a lighting point where we're very comfortable with the lighting setups. We call them safe shots. We know when we set them up at a certain position, at a certain angle, a certain distance from the subject, that it's going to give us the effect that we need. We're all guilty of going for our safe shots, but push the boundary slightly. Use the softboxes and the modifiers that you choose in different ways. When you're practicing, not in front of a client in a live shoot environment, but practice with them. Get some different looks and feels. Use them, from out of the box type ideas to give you different looks and effects. I normally plan on getting 3, possibly 4 looks out of one modifier. Those of you that have been on my courses will know this because I demonstrate it and the different look and feel you can get from, changing the softbox. With the Elinchrom Rotalux softboxes, take the front diffuser off. Use the inner diffuser because it gives you a lovely diffused light in the middle of the image, or in the middle of the catch light, let's say, with a specular hard-edged light on the outside. So it makes the catch lights look a bit more interesting for beauty photography, for instance. Take the inner diffuser out and use our deflector set. Now, the deflectors make any of the Elinchrom softboxes into a beauty dish. You can have a gold, you can have a silver, a frosted and a translucent. They will all give you different effects and looks and feels to the lighting effects within your image. Also look, and this is really, really important, look at how many shots a day you're going to do. On your busiest day, are you going to be shooting 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 shots a day? If you are, and you're looking at buying a D-Light 1, the D-Light 1 will do it. It will do it quite happily, but it's not going to do it for months and months and months, day in, day out. It was never, ever designed to do that output of work. So think about how many shots you generally do in a portrait session. If you're shooting 8 or 9 portraits in a day, how many images from each shoot on average do you get? How many at the end of the day is that going to add up to? If you're going to shoot 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 shots a day, which isn't out of the question these days, I know photographers that shoot a lot more than that, go for a bigger unit. Go for something that's designed to work that hard for you. It's always bad to buy a light that is just not designed to do the job, and at some point it's going to fail. It's irrelevant who makes it, it's irrelevant the quality of the light, they're all designed to do a job. So at the moment, we can go from the D-Light 1, you jump to the ELC 500. Yes, it's a 500 watt head, but it also comes down to 7 watt seconds. So it's comparable to the D-Light 1, and it's designed to be used very, very heavily. It's our flagship model. It's designed to do the job that it was designed to do. Again, buy well, buy once. So again, any questions you've got regarding usage and everyday shooting, give us a shout. We can give you the advice and point you in the right direction to those products. Don't forget, we also do a try before you buy scheme. So rather than investing your hard-earned money into a lighting system, come and rent one. If you rent it over a weekend, you pick it up Friday, drop it back Monday, or we can get it collected. It's up to you. 1 day's hire for a whole weekend of playing with the system that you're looking to invest in. And when you bring those back, if you decide to go for that kit, then we discount the higher rate, refund your money. There's different schemes that we do. Talk to us about it, but have a play with it before you buy it, and it's a bit of peace of mind for you, making sure you've made the right decision. The last question we've got is, I've got a food photo shoot coming up. Can you recommend some useful lighting accessories I would need? Okay, we have a few photographers that we work with quite closely. All of them work in fairly different ways. I've got a few guys that use big softboxes boomed over the plate of food to give that very soft, natural looking light. Some people like to mimic the light coming through a window to make the light look natural, and they almost use their flash accessories almost as a fill flash to relieve shadows, but again, you don't want to get rid of all of them, because you want to make sure that plate of food looks like a 3D plate of food. Otherwise it just may as well be a drawing flat on the table. Little bits and pieces, so little reflectors to knock some light back in from different sides. Also, when you're shooting on silver service type trays and cutlery, the larger the light source, closer to the subject, is going to give you that soft. It's going to reduce the reflections that you get that may distract. You need some reflections because, again, you need to make it look as if you were looking at it with your own eyes. And if I saw a plate of food on my kitchen worktop, I would expect to see the reflection in something from the window, from the bits and pieces around the kitchen or the environment. So again, as we spoke about mixing daylight and flash, look at the thing that's going to give you light for light quality. So match the surroundings. If you've got very small, hard LED lighting, you're going to use a smaller modifier to match that ambience. If you want less reflections, use a bigger, softer light source that's going to give you a very, very faithful representation of exactly what's in front of you and make it look a lot more natural. Food photography is a little bit of a different thing depending on who's shooting it and what look they're going for. So again, come in and speak to us and we can give you some advice, but we have a massive, vast range of accessories that will help you out in any situation. So if there's anything you want me to cover in more detail, let us know. As I said, in the spring we're going to try and do a bit more of a sort of a location type thing where we can do some demonstrating in real life of balancing daylight and flash. We can do a high sync session. We can do whatever you want us to do. So you ask and we'll see what we can do to put it together. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, click the bell to notify when we're going live, and as I say, if you need anything in the meantime, give us a shout and we'll do our best to help you out. Thanks again for watching, guys, and we'll see you next month. Thank you.